Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Jefferson Highway Show. This historic highway was formed in 1915 by the Jefferson Highway Association. It runs from Winnipeg, Canada, all the way to New Orleans, Louisiana. Let's go! So everyone, this is so exciting. It's the first Jefferson Highway Association podcast for 2025. You know, we do this every fourth Thursday, and we know that this show this year is going to have more than a monthly episode. So stay tuned for that. You can keep up with us at bigblendradio.com, but I encourage you to go to jeffersonhighway.org because that is the association, and that is who created this Jefferson Highway, this historic corridor that goes from Manitoba, Winnipeg, Manitoba, all the way down to New Orleans. And as we record this, we're kind of going, y'all, it's the Palms to Pines Highway or the Pines to Palms Highway. But if you're in New Orleans or Natchitoches, Louisiana right now, you've got snow. Oh, so exciting to see what happens on the Jefferson Highway. So we're very excited. Nancy and I here from Big Blend Magazines will be producing the very first Jefferson Highway travel guide that is the first digital guide. There's been magazines and publications, and it was a publication person who founded this highway and started it. But we're going to be putting this out that in time for the Jefferson Highway Conference. It will be more of a magazine seasonal episode, and we put the president of the Jefferson Highway on task, Roger Bell. We said, Roger, we need to get this magazine started. We need to really look at some key places for people to visit, especially those making their plans for this year. I don't know if snow in New Orleans is part of his top list of must-do experiences, but even as we were about to record, he added more to this list, and then he added lists. I mean, there is no way he started off with, I'm going to do a top 10. And I think by the time I look, there's 15 experiences and honorable mentions that goes on. We're looking, I think 40, I think he should have just done 101 things on the highway. So Roger, like seriously, you can't stop. How are you? Welcome back.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, this was kind of a fun undertaking, and I did this kind of quickly, but it just it kept more and more kept coming in my mind, and I'm sure some will come to my mind even after this. But thanks for the opportunity to come up with this fun list and talk about it.
And this is important because Nancy, you and I, we did a lot of the highway on the park side, right? You and I did, how many lakes did we go through, do you think, Nancy?
A whole bunch.
I know, so many lakes, and we found pelicans in the middle of Missouri, like, I didn't know, wildflowers and so much birding, and we did this big nature experience, and public art was another big one. So what's really cool about the Jefferson Highway, I think, Nancy, you really hit it straight. Like, I know it's America's first vacation route or highway, the Palms to Pines Highway. Even if there's snow in the palm trees right now, which I'm laughing at. There's people dancing on Bourbon Street right now in the French Quarter of New Orleans. I love it. But Nancy, I think you pretty much almost given the highway a new slogan, which is the Jefferson Highways for everyone. So I know we're going to get into Roger's experiences, but don't you think it is for everyone? So everyone's going to have a list like Roger. But in their ideas, right?
Well, it goes through so many different terrains, so many different wildlife areas, so many different cities, so many different cultural diversity backgrounds, if I can say it that way. That if you go up and down the Jefferson Highway and you don't find anything, I don't know what to tell you. There's going to be something, more than one thing or two things or three. There's going to be a ton of things that you can relate to and love and want to go back to bring other people and say, hey, you need to look at this. Because it is, and we've traveled a good portion of it, not all of it yet. And now even the places I have been. I want to go back because I'm
Yeah.
like, I miss part of it.
Yeah. There's
Mhm.
always something you had to leave, or
There's
like it got
always
dark.
something else.
There's only so much you can do in a day. And so, looking at to-do lists, top lists, and as travel writers, this is something we always battle with because there's always so much more. And then we have to like needle it down. Um, and so Roger, I know, had a hard time with
Mhm.
this, and he still is having a hard time, but he loves it. And so we each, I mean, if Nancy was to do a list like Roger, it's going to be all the outlaws. She just, she's kind of stuck on the Jesse James and all of that. So she's going to do the outlaw list. I'll do the graveyard list, the park list, which kind of goes hand in hand. But Roger, you got a little bit of everything on this list, and this list will be featured in the first issue of the Jefferson Highway Travel Guide, which we're so excited about. But you have some parks, you have some historic hotels, which I know is a really important thing. You've got some museums. So your first main list is really well rounded. I think you did a good job on this.
Mm.
And then you also, I'm going to go to number 9, not the Beatles number 9, but Meredith Publishing Building in Iowa State Capitol in Des Moines, Iowa. You want to tell us about that? Because doesn't that go to the founding of the Jefferson Highway?
Yes, the actual, when Meredith Publishing came up with the idea for the Jefferson Highway, uh, when Mr. Meredith did, head of the Meredith Publishing, which was the publisher of, most people would know, Better Homes and Garden, but he really gave it, a lot of his early success was Successful Farming magazine. He was right in the same building, and the building is there today. It's preserved as a historic building for the company there, and you can. It's just really. And at one time, the building served as the first headquarters of the Jefferson Highway Association.
Mm,
Des Moines is it's one of those cities that um, is good to go to because it's not quite too big. It's not quite too small. It has interesting things to do if you really look for them. The downtown is it's fun. There's architectural things down there. There's some really fun, beautiful hotels that have been restored in the downtown. And number 9 on my list, Meredith Publishing Company, the building there where is there. But in Des Moines, just down the street, and I listed that is the Iowa State Capitol, and the Iowa State Capitol tour that we took in during our caravan 2 years ago will blow you away. I mean, I've been to tours of a lot of, I've been to tours of the White House and obviously the Capitol in Washington, and my own Capitol here in Oklahoma. But that Iowa Capitol tour is really amazing, and I really enjoyed the tour there and the grounds there with the gold dome. Actually,
Mm.
and it is a gold dome, real gold,
wow.
in the Capitol building there in Des Moines, and it's just a good place to do it. And the grave of Edwin Meredith is not far from there either. So
Oh, wow.
you can really the birthplace of the highway is just kind of all around you. And the highway went right by the state capitol, so we have pictures of old cars going by it. So it's just a
Wow.
fun place, and that's why it was number 9 on my list, as you alluded
Well, I know these numbers may shift as we keep talking. And
to.
tomorrow, I bet you Roger will go, but wait, there's more. Um,
Of course.
2 for 1. But I think, it's so interesting because you also bring up a good point about capital cities, that are on the route. And I find that because I don't, there's like also, we've got a thing about courthouses. Like now that would be a thing we're going to have to do a whole list of courthouses because the historic courthouses, but capital cities, and the Jefferson Highway being part of that, that's magic, man. That's
Well,
like
there's 3 state
huge.
capitals on the route.
Yeah.
Des Moines is one, Baton Rouge in Louisiana is one, and St. Paul in Minnesota is
Hmm.
one. But those are grand. But you're right. There's a lot of beautiful courthouses, county or parish courthouses along the route, and I do have those on my list. I just don't have them on my top 15 list. But yes, I do have
I know. But
them.
this is giving us a springboard for more rabbit holes, y'all. And Roger again is going to have this in the Jefferson Highway Travel Guide.com site. We've got a page up there. Everything is under construction. We're just giving you like a little platform. Feel free to be part of this journey, whether you're a traveler, a local on in the community of the Jefferson Highway, a CVB tourism entity, please, a business, small business. We want to hear from you as we put this together. We want everyone to be represented as best we can. And especially, with this being seasonal, that will help everyone on that too. But, we're going to be having some fun things where everyone can connect. And, Roger's basically, as he puts these lists together, he's planning our editors, uh, our content, Nancy. I think he's putting
Yeah.
our whole schedule together here because when I look at this too, like number 10, is the Jonesville General Store in Jonesville, Texas. So you got a general store, but then I got to go over to Natchitoches and go. They got like the most historic general store or mercantile, the Caffrey Frederick Mercantile in the state of Louisiana. So that's also part of Jefferson Highway,
Yeah.
which I know you've been to, but now
All right.
what's going on with Jonesville? Something special.
This is this. I just love this place on the route, and it's probably a lot of our JH travelers, even some of our board members and people, have never been there. I've been there twice. It is near the state line of Louisiana. It's not too far from Wascom, Texas, which is right on the border there. And there is it's very near to Marshall, Texas. But it's right on the original route of the highway. And it's a rural area. And you drive down the highway, and all of a sudden you're in this. It's Jonesville is just a bump on the road. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it was a definitely a bustling place at one time for cotton farming and stuff. But this white framed building, and there's also one across the street that was a competing one that is not operational now, but this store has been in operation since 1847. It's the longest running general store in the state of Texas. And you walk in, and you don't know exactly what you're going to expect, but there's a little bit of everything in there. I mean, there's obviously some things, so souvenirs and T-shirts, but there's you know they have all these old sodas. You can get all different styles. And then in the midst
Ooh,
of
I
all
like that.
this, you see equipment and things that they sold in that store for 100 years, and it's just it's isolated, but that's the thing. I love places like that where you're driving down the road, you don't really expect to see something like that. And I spent an hour or so just talking to the people and visiting with the family, because it's been family owned for over 100 years,
Wow.
and
Wow.
That's
and
cool.
and it is still people in the family. And there's a young man I met when I was in there. It was probably 12, 14, and he's the next generation, I guess. I don't know, but you hope things like this can survive. And this is just, to me, this is part of the Jefferson Highway experience, is finding places like this. And so
Mm.
I highly recommend uh, going to this, looking up this place on any Jefferson Highway tour.
I love it. And when you get old sodas and stuff, you count me in. Um, the number 2 on your list is the Reed Nyland Corner. And so this is the crossing of the Lincoln and Jefferson highways. And this is so important because Jefferson Highway has many crossroads. Route 66, the Pony Express National Historic Trail, the El Camino Real de los Tejas National Historic Trail. So there's all of these crossings, and I'm sure there's a bunch more that I didn't mention because I think I saw signs in different places while we're on the road, right? Nancy, you and I see
because
signs, we're like, dude, pull over again, right?
because
So,
we are a north-south route, we basically cross with so many of these east-west routes. So which were the majority of the highways and the trails of the past, going west. So yeah, we passed through all of them, but the granddaddy of historic highways, automobile highways in America, is considered Lincoln Highway, which went from New York to San Francisco. It was started in 1912, 1913, around there, and just a few years before the Jefferson. This is an iconic place in America, and I just said is you hope like places like this will never go away. This is one that I just highly recommend. I could have easily put this number one. It probably is number one on some
oh,
people's
see,
list,
Nancy, look, he's doing it.
and but it was you go there and they have a restored gas station. And what this was this gentleman back in the day, they saw the commercial possibilities with the crossing of the two routes here. So in this crossing area near Colo, Iowa, they created, basically a camp, which eventually evolved into a small motor court or motel, and that is still there, and the restaurant that was there. You can
Mm.
go there to the restaurant today in Nylands and eat. It's had different owners the past 2 or 3 more years, but it's been successful, and it's a good place to stop. We stopped there in our caravan in Iowa a couple of years ago, and we all had I think we had some pies or desserts. Enjoyed those, and there's a gas station was right there, and it's been restored, and the group there will open it up as a museum to you. But even cooler than that is a lot of people stop there and they don't go to the back of behind the buildings. And I've known some
Mm.
folks that have done that and have said, "Wow, boy, I wish I would have done that." Because on the back of the building is about a 4 foot high, probably about, I don't know, 4 by maybe 6 foot, maybe even 8 foot wide concrete marker that says Jefferson Highway.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
it was found in a field right off the highway, maybe, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. And just a guess, but they saved it. They didn't really, and they moved it over here to the corner, and it's been preserved, and it's the only one of its kind that we know of on the route. It's a great place to take a picture. Great place to you just feel like you're right there amongst
Mm.
the highway. You can feel the Lincoln Highway people coming, the Jefferson people. You can imagine it there, and there's
But
really no
you
place
actually
quite
had a
like it.
meeting with Lincoln there, didn't you?
Not in that town. No, we nearby, not very far from there, is Nevada, and that is another community we could easily been on this list. But we it is not that, but it's kind of out by itself. It's kind of
Mm.
outside. Even though it's called Colo, Iowa, it is really outside. It's just to the north of that, and it's just one of those places that is true Americana can be felt there.
Well, you also, number three on the list, I'm going to start tossing these numbers because I know it's shifting, but, you have the end of the Jefferson Highway marker in New Orleans, which our friend Arlene, who introduced us, Arlene Gould, who is very involved with the highway and is retired now as, from being the head of the Natchitoches Tourism, Board Bureau. That was that, and Mardi Gras is coming, so y'all get on the
Mm-hmm.
highway. That is her family's Mardi Gras place, their position in New Orleans, and it happens to be the Jefferson Highway marker spot. So don't you think she was kind of like, it was like a divine thing that happened with
Yeah,
this.
and
It's
she
wild.
knew about the Jefferson Highway when we first talked to her over 10 years ago, and because of that knowledge. And the marker is at Charles and Common Street. It's there. It's been there. It was put up by the Daughters of the American Revolution in 1917, and we
Oh,
have it. We have pictures of that event that we have, and it is. The other thing about it is within shouting distance, right across the street is really what I would really call the birth of the highway when the organizing convention of the Jefferson Highway, which was in New Orleans in November 1915, was right there across the street there at the Chamber of New Orleans event center, or it was right there. So the whole convention was right there. So you're there at the quote end of the highway, but you're also there at the beginning of the history of the highway, as
Mm.
it was designated that day as to be an official route.
It,
And it is a great place to take a picture. I mean, people are traveling the route, starting and going. You've got to end and start there because it's still there and it's just amazing. It's not anything that is going to draw a ton of attention to everybody but us, but it is. We hope it's there forever, and again, it's just a great part of the route.
and right now it's covered in snow as we record this on Tuesday for the Thursday broadcast. It'll be probably melted by then. But, I think that's wild. Um, you know, I want to go to Lake Itasca Park in Minnesota. This is really the U.S. portion that Roger's focusing on because he hasn't done Manitoba yet, Winnipeg, and neither have Nancy and I. And so I don't know, Roger, we may have to, meet up there. We did meet you in Oklahoma in Muskogee, in your town. So Priscilla hasn't crossed the border yet, but we have our passports ready. We always have our passports ready. Why not go south the border, go here? This is what makes it an international highway. But we're going to get there. And I think that's probably the hardest part is this crossing highways for, everyone for different reasons and different things. But it's doable, 100% doable. So, and it's just you cross the border. Have your things in order, have your passports, IDs, all that stuff. But Manitoba, and then you get to Minnesota, and
Yeah, I didn't
man,
include
oh,
Manitoba. I could have. I mean, there's some things that I know there, but I haven't been there yet.
no, I
So
mean, this is what your
it
list
is
is,
one of
right?
those
This
things
is,
that I look
yeah.
forward to seeing that. I mean, I know there's a couple of things in Winnipeg that would be something I would, we could easily put on this list.
The Red River that goes
Uh,
backwards. I want to
but
go see that.
getting to get you went all the way to number one when you talked about Lake Itasca. I think that
And
I
they were on the
love
podcast.
I
Yeah.
love places that, yeah, if you want to go back and look at the podcast of what we did
I'll link that everyone in the episode notes so you can
it
listen to
is
them. Yeah.
that's a special place, and it is. I think the thing that I love is when I can personally is I can go to places where I can touch history and I can
Mm.
imagine what the travelers went through, and then I can see things that they actually saw, and I know that they saw because they have pictures of them with their. And those who don't know, this is really the starting point of the Mississippi River. You can actually walk out. First of all, when you get into the park, it's beautiful, and they have a great visitor center. And we have a lot of pictures of the highway route. There's a lot of postcards of it going. The highway went through there, and that we have. But there's a lodge there called the Douglas Lodge. It's not a big lodge. It won't hold a lot of guests, but people can still reserve it. I don't remember how many rooms it has, but not that many. But it's been used since the time of the Jefferson Highway, and it looks pretty much the same as it did at the time of the Jefferson Highway. It's
Wow.
a log lodge there, and it is beautiful. Then you go
Mm.
down, you have to drive around over to the point where you walk down the trail, and you can while you're doing that, you can look at pictures of the Jefferson Highway, uh, sociability runs of the past that stopped there, and directors of the highway that went across there. But you can walk basically on these stepping stones across the Mississippi River there, and just a few of us have fallen in over. Not me, but a few of them have fallen in over the times. Got a little wet, but it's a beautiful, beautiful lake
Cool.
there, and it's so pretty. And the Minnesota lakes are just part of the heritage of this, and uh, I just loved it. I've only been there once, but it was hard to break away to stop it. At the time I was there, a rainstorm was hitting, and I took a beautiful picture of a rainbow on the lake right there, right by where the Mississippi River started, and
Oh,
it
cool.
really enjoyed it.
And talking about, Minnesota is known for its lakes, but there's lakes all on the highway. I mean, the whole thing, there's lakes
Hmm.
everywhere. Um,
Well, with
lakes,
Minnesota
rivers,
being called the
bayous.
10,000 lakes, Oklahoma has a
Yeah.
lot of lakes. You definitely have some in Missouri, and then you get in even Louisiana and
Oh,
Texas.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
have
yeah.
where about a new lake actually starting to be built near Bonham. So, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of lakes.
That's kind of the thing where Nancy says, this is for everyone,
Well,
people to
even
go
in
just.
Iowa, you've got Clear Lake, Iowa.
Yes, we have
Hmm.
lakes. Iowa's got beautiful lakes, beautiful waterways.
Mhm.
But in swamps when you get to Louisiana too, don't forget that, and bayous in Texas too. Caddo Lake is not far off of the highway. And then, just going all through Louisiana, it's like water and gators. Come on, it's so fun.
Gators are
But
cool.
waterfalls are also a part of what you can find on the highway. Now, you made me go over that swinging bridge in Iowa Falls, and like,
Mhm.
Roger, you just want me to pee in my pants or something. I don't know. But I'm like, she went further because she's just like that. She can do stuff. But I'm like, I'm a little, I think I fell through something when my past life or something. But there's waterfalls, and Iowa Falls is beautiful. And I know that's on honorable mentions list. But then going back to Minnesota that you were talking about, in Minneapolis, you said you went to some waterfalls there, and you can pronounce that because I'm not. I can say Iowa Falls, but I don't know if
Yeah,
it's Minnehaha.
Minnehaha
Minnehaha.
Falls, and interesting enough is what does that mean? And from what I remember, it's the Indian Dakota, I believe,
Hmm.
language. Minne means water, and haha
Oh,
meant gathering or coming together. It
oh,
is very
nice.
near. It's very near to the Mississippi River. It is a natural lake or natural waterfall that drops about 53 feet. It is in the middle of a beautiful park, kind of in a, we're almost in a residential area of the town. The time
Oh,
I was
wow.
there, we rented bikes and we had really fun riding our bikes around that area. In the Longfellow poem, Hiawatha, there is a mention of it, even though he never really went
Hmm.
there. He never went there, but he wrote about it. And there's a
Hmm.
statue there outside there, but it's a beautiful walk up to the waterway. And the thing about it is, it's another place history. It is not exactly on the route. But Jefferson Highway travelers, the early guides, it is highlighted as something to see there. You see many pictures of it in early guides as a place to stay, a place to go. And, to me, it's part of the route because it has the heritage of Jefferson Highway travelers wanted to go there. It has a really interesting history from what I know in the 1890s, 1880s it was really a place for a lot of legal activity problems. They would have these.
Oh, Nancy, your style.
They had.
Hmm.
It didn't have people would set up things to come there. They knew people wanted to see it, so I guess they thought, they'd sell all kind of from alcohol to whatever was around there. A lot of body activity happened there. But then
Cool.
Yes.
the around the turn of the century, the state of Minnesota took it on as a state park and really changed its got rid of all the riffraff and eventually, but you see pictures of it, and that was the place to go to have your picture on the route, Kodaking, whatever, the 1920s, or I have one of my things in my collection. I have a book of Kodak photographs that were taken by a Jefferson Highway traveler that went the route from
Cool.
northern Minnesota. Most of it's in Minnesota, and of course
Mm.
they have several pictures right there with the falls in
Mm.
the background, and of course their clothing is, the ladies are wearing their clothing of the era, and and you feel that water. It's just a beautiful waterfall. I love waterfalls anyway, but
Mm-hmm.
it is. Uh, it seems kind of out of place there, but it is. Uh, it's just somewhere that when I was making this list, I kept thinking, yeah, I really enjoy that place. I've got to put it up there on the top list.
I love that. And, we've talked a little bit about, tourist camps over shows and been to the one in Muskogee where you are. That's a beautiful tourist camp in Natchitoches, Louisiana, which also makes your list. Not the tourist camp, but, you put the Jefferson Highway Tourist Camp building from Muskogee, which is where we were. So, I love that because you got this beautiful gazebo and little water and it's nice because you have that wonderful sign too, with all the different, like the mile signs, all the different
Mhm.
directions. I don't know whatever you call them. Little.
Well, I think from obviously I'm a little prejudiced probably, but that's okay. This is my list. Uh, but this is my hometown, and
Hmm.
when I first discovered the Jefferson Highway here, one of the things that I discovered was that the building that most people in our community thought was the Girl Scout house was originally the tourist camp, and it has been here. It was built in 1922 by the Kiwanis Club, and since doing research and writing stories on it, I have found so many great things about it. How many different people that came here, and how grand it was with gardens at one time. And it actually had a section for honeymooners at one time, from what I understand.
Oh.
It just, and to be there and you can sit there. And as far as I know, there are some places for tourist camping. And those that don't know what tourist camping is, they're real quickly.
Oh yeah.
This is the first. As people got automobiles, they wanted to get out of the route of the highway, and they just they discovered they couldn't. A lot of them couldn't afford to stay in fancy hotels on the route, or it just didn't work for them. So these communities came up with tourist camps, and they wanted to outdo each other to create the reason to stay. You want to stay in Muskogee because you want to stay in their tourist camp. Of course, what do? They went downtown, they bought things, they ate their restaurants, they got their supplies there, whatever. And they would actually camp in tents and bring their Model Ts, and so it was a true camp. And even there are some early RVs actually went on part of it, but uh, these are, to me, they're a forgotten part of American history, and
Hmm.
I love seeing. I collect photographs of tourist camps in the Jefferson Highway, and I have probably 40 to 50 camp pictures along the highway or more. And
Wow.
this is one that, obviously, being the only really one that has the original building there where you can walk in and today and reserve it to for an activity if you want. Still there in the park that it was in is really neat, and
That's
that's
cool.
I put it on the list.
And it's got a guitar. You guys have guitars all around, and it's got one of the guitars.
Yeah, yeah,
The public
we
art
did.
guitars. Come on, you got that. But
Mhm.
I want to ask you, Roger. how you got started, just detour, because we can't do a podcast without a detour and a different rabbit hole. But how did you get into the Jefferson Highway rabbit hole? Do you remember when you first found out about it? And then
Oh yeah,
like when your first step in the rabbit hole went, and then you went into the rabbit hole of the association and now president and now, I mean,
yeah.
and
I
how long have you
can.
been in it?
Well, I've been involved in living in I lived in Texas for a while. I've never thought I would come back. Came back home, and one of the things I did was start getting involved in heritage history. I was involved in the creation of a museum here, and I worked on several projects here. But wrote a couple of books on the history of Muskogee and so on. But then one day, a friend of mine who had started working on me with some projects, a man by the name of Glenn Smith, who is sadly not with us today, but
Mm.
he passed away, and basically the same month as the 2019 Actors Conference.
Mm.
But he came to me and he said, Roger, have you ever heard much about the Jefferson Highway? And I said, no, not really. Maybe briefly in some of my research, but not a lot about it. Never really dug into it. He said, well, I'm going to go to their conference this year in Minnesota. And that was probably 2014, I want to say. And I said, oh, that's interesting. So he just got so fired up during that time, and he became the president of Jefferson Highway himself. And we were good friends. We would eat lunch about once a month, and he just got me into it little by little. I was like, I remember giving a talk with him, helping him out, giving a presentation, probably 2014 or so. But the bug hit me, and a lot of the things that I was involved in community wise, I've just kind of let go to the wayside because this is kind of taken over, and it's
It's
fun.
fun.
It is.
Well,
It's great. It is something you can do so many things. I mean, you can study its history, but you can get out and travel it. You can see its history. You can see it, feel its
it's
culture.
it's a
So,
great way to teach your kids
yeah,
Americana,
and I
American
have. I mean, my
history.
son went on a Jefferson Highway trip with me when he was 17 years old, and it's just
It's
that's
it's
my
awesome.
story from there. But
That's awesome. And then you get in, that's the thing. It's like Arlene, talking about how many years, I mean, she knew about the highway, right? And I think we met her 2014, July 2014, when we first went to Natchitoches because of the Cane River Creole National Historical Park. For those that don't know, if you're listening for the first time, Nancy and I were a mother-daughter team traveling the country full-time, documenting parks, public lands for our Parks and Travel magazine. And that's how we met Arlene. And and then she was like, "Oh, you really are on the road." Like people go like, "Oh, well, where's your house? Where's this?" No, we really are 100% on the road. And then she says, "Well, girls, you know how she talks, you got to come to my house for Sunday supper." Hey, January Sunday supper month. I wish we were with Arlene because she can cook, man. And
mhm.
so she says, "No, come over to my house." And then she calls and she says, "Girls, don't forget to bring your laundry." And we'd just done hotel laundry. And listen, there's nothing like actual, it's a difference. Let's just put it that way. And
Mm,
we
careful.
sat down with her and had this, I mean, there's no one like Arlene. I'm still like
Mhm.
brokenhearted over her retirement, but I want her to have a good time. But she just I swear to God, she mentioned the Jefferson Highway at that point.
Hmm.
Like we were talking about the history, and she is such a history buff. I mean, she keeps so many historical records and books, and that supper that we had with her at her house, and then we got so lost getting back to our hotel. We ended up by the Cane River Creole National Historical Park. We were way off. We were seeing armadillos in the night on some country road somewhere next to a swamp. But she got us so stuck into it because she had this passion for her landscape, but also understanding how connected all these communities are by so many different things, whether it's music, whether it's pie, ice cream up in Minnesota and Iowa, right? all these different things. I mean, waterfalls, like what we're talking about with you.
Mhm.
And she just was, you get, I mean, we haven't stopped going to Natchitoches ever since. And it's because of someone's passion of the history and then what the integrity of the places does the place know about it. And maybe sometimes places and things get forgotten. When we did part of the route, the one time, I think it was I don't, Nancy and I traveled part of the route a lot of times and never knew we were on it until we knew, really and got involved. And I remember texting you, Roger, and we found some old bridge that used to be a bridge, but then what you're driving over is the new bridge, but the bridge is at the side of a rest area. I think we were in Missouri somewhere.
Mhm.
Oh, I don't
Yeah,
know. And
here
then
in
you have to
King
look for,
City.
yeah, I remember that. I mean, it's like you just get into this, then you think about the people that did the bridge, and then you think about
Mhm.
someone went and painted the Jefferson Highway logo on it. Like, who's doing that? Who's caring that much? Which is so awesome because when you start to follow the the historic trail itself, you just now whenever there's a sign, and the Jefferson Highway Association has an amazing sign program. So I just got to plug that. So jeffersonhighway.org, check that out. As a traveler, you start to feel like you're part of this collective community that cares about all the communities on the route. Does that make sense for you? Because I know you sent me this big long list of communities too.
It grows. That's the fun of it. It just in it communities discover us sometimes out of the blue, and we don't really know. Sometimes it's just different ways that happens, but we love visiting with communities about it, and it's one of the reasons it intrigues me, I guess, is the fact it's the past is there, and I love history and I love heritage things, but it's more than that. It's today. You can go in these communities and see each one of their cultural, their different vibrant things that are happen. Maybe not even in the area of the Jefferson Highway, but there's just so many things that are there in these communities as you travel around and to
Mm.
discover.
Well,
Well,
one of the
it's
things too.
a true Americana destination. The whole highway. I mean, coming it that route was a cattle route,
Mm.
transporting cattle on foot with real cowboys from
Ooh,
Canada all the way down to Louisiana, driving cattle.
is that the
You know,
connection to Manitoba? Was from the cattle?
the cattle thing was, like a lot of how our first routes were chosen.
I don't. Manitoba was growing. I mean, Winnipeg was really growing. It was. They were comparing it to becoming a Chicago type thing, and
Oh,
it was really growing in the teens, and so I think that was one of the reasons that it was made a destination. Obviously, part of it was the fact it was the northern part of the route. But it is that's an interesting story, or another one for another podcast, probably.
yeah. I mean, there again, rabbit holes. Okay, so let's go to. Let's finish Natchitoches because I brought it up again. Um, Front Street, the bricks on the Front Street in Natchitoches. Front Street is where the CVB is, the tourism center.
Well, that the
Oh,
bricks
that's a
there
story.
have the story where the ladies, I can't remember, it was 50s or 60s, they were going to tear up the bricks and make it a modern roadway downtown, and the ladies from the preservation associations there weren't going to have it, and they basically laid down on the bricks in the street when the construction crews were ready to tear it up, and you hear things like that, but this was successful, and
Yeah.
I think it's fun
and they did it. And today, you think back,
for them.
why would anybody think about doing that? But we've lost so many things similar to that. But the Front Street is right on the Jefferson Highway. Natchitoches, and you immediately see the Louisiana French architecture there with all the buildings. You talked about the general store. I
Mm-hmm.
would agree, but it's part of that front street, so I'm just going to throw it all into one. And not very far from there, just to the south there is where the New Jefferson Park is, and we have
Mm-hmm.
a marker there. And you can go to the fort that's there, and great restaurants downtown, and
Candy
shopping,
shop.
candy shop, and
That's
uh,
important.
we used
We
to
like
say
the
you could
candy
go to see
shop.
Arlene there, but you can go see the Natchitoches CVB people there, and you can spend a day there and just love it, and plus, hey, we did this on our caravan last year, stay in our great lodging partners, some of them right on that street.
Mm-hmm.
In there, the great bed and breakfast. What a great bed and breakfast town that is. You go there, you've got to stay in one of these great places. And
Oh, the historic. We stayed at the
uh,
the Sweet Cane Inn. Remember, Nancy? It's
Yeah.
haunted. And
Hmm. Lots
Nancy
of
and I tried to
beautiful
stay up
I
all
places.
night
loved
for
it. We
ghosts.
had a great time there. We split up on different ones last year on our caravan, but you've also got the Steel Magnolia story.
Yeah, which
Yes.
is from Steel Magnolias
And
movie.
it is a
Oh,
destination to spend some time. For some people that go there, I'm sure it's one of those,
yeah.
and the festivals they have there. I mean, it's just something
Oh,
unique. You've
Christmas.
got,
We
hey,
finally did
and
it.
they even have a boat you can go out on now on the lake
We did it.
there. I did
We've done it.
too, and
It's cool. Cane
so
River Queen.
and I think there's an alligator museum or
There's
something
always
around
an
Yeah,
there.
there's a park,
alligator.
alligator park, but there's alligators. And listen, the one thing I wanted to touch on, because you brought up the hotels and the bed and breakfast, one of the things I know you're passionate about just as much as the tourist camps is these historic hotels.
Hmm.
And this is so
Mhm.
important to think about because each of these hotels has such an incredible backstory and not just one, a gazillion, right? And
Yeah,
so
there's
I'm going to go to
probably
your hotel Bentley because we were
yeah.
talking about Natchitoches.
Okay.
Alexandria was your last conference destination, and so tell us about the hotel
Love it.
Bentley. They've been on the show too, but that was
Uh,
that's
yes,
amazing.
one of those places in America that a lot of people don't have a clue about, but Alexandria, Louisiana, straight downtown. The hotel is, you walk in and your mouth almost falls open. It's just like, this is unbelievable. You can't imagine the craftsmen and the people that built this hotel, and you can stay there today and enjoy every bit of it. And it has, not only is it just a beautiful building, it was built by a man that came, and Mr. Bentley, who came from I want to say Pennsylvania. I might be wrong there,
Hmm.
but he came, and he was a basically a timber baron, and he built his own hotel there, and it is an unbelievable place. And his residence was on the very top floor, and I would love to go on up there, but I didn't get that honor. But
Hmm.
but there's so much there. The military history. This is where the Louisiana maneuvers. A lot of the people stayed there. There's a room there that you can. We actually had a board meeting in there. They call the
Oh,
mirror
cool.
room, where a lot of the planning for World War II and even D-Day was really done there. And they actually, in one wing of the hotel, they have a little military museum showing you all that. And
That's cool.
it is so. It's just a great place, and they just, I have not seen it up yet, but they're putting up a Jefferson Highway marker uh, in the
Oh,
front of the building now, and the signage. They have a beautiful neon sign, just a work of art outside that was put up in later days. But it's one of those places that I highly recommend. Any traveler on the Jefferson Highway route has got to find a way to spend one of the nights in that hotel. And it
and
was
you,
also the site of many Jefferson Highway conferences. Caravans stayed there on their routes, and there was a lot of meetings there. And we had our meeting, our banquet in the ballroom, the same one where in 1917 they had their banquet. for the
Wow.
Jefferson Highway Association.
Well, that's the other thing. This year in November will be 110 years
That
of the
is right.
Jefferson
That
Highway,
is right.
which is epic, man. So I think we're going to have to make a 110 list, like
Mm,
110 things.
Uh-oh.
I know that Roger can do it like in 5 minutes, but
no problem.
I know, because we've got like three-quarters of it done in this one list, which we can't do all in one podcast. But sticking with hotels, the Park Inn Hotel, I know that was a big deal on the conference of when the in Mason City, Iowa. Like,
It's an
Mason
important
City is like
place.
like the history there. You've got the Music Man, you've got the surf, and we're at this historic point of this week is the day the music died is this week. Um
Well, the Park Inn is so much different than the Hotel Alexandria. It's not. It doesn't have this big grand lobby like that. It does have a lobby, but it doesn't have anything like that. But it was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. It is the only Frank Lloyd Wright um, designed hotel in the world today, and it has, I want to say, it had 27 rooms in it. And each one of them is different. And you see Frank Lloyd Wright's design in every room, every place you walk in the place. The next door, a bank was part of the building too, but now that area is being used to be an event center, so you can have things right there, weddings or whatever. We had a meeting. Our meetings were in that room. But Frank Lloyd Wright statue is right outside the building, looking at the building, and a beautiful park out front of it. And you look at it, look at pictures from the past, and it was such a great undertaking. I can't imagine that this community saved this hotel, and what a great thing it is. And has a restaurant inside it. It's just one of those places that you have to go on the route, and you have to find a way to reserve your room under
mm,
the Jefferson Highway trip. And there are other great hotels on the route that are not on this top 15, but need to be mentioned. And this is a little different, I think. We talk about Route 66 travelers. They stay on the 50s, 60s type hotels. These are grand hotels in the past,
yeah, it's
and
isn't
they're
oh
just wonderful to go to.
I have to ask you about this because I just recorded an interview with travel writer Debbie Stone about Minneapolis, and she did a walking tour and also did an outdoor sculpture park, which we will air on a show in the future, near future. Great articles. Again, I'm excited because it is just amazing history of Minneapolis. But we got into this conversation because I was thinking of Owatonna and the bank
Mm.
building, and she
Yeah.
started talking about the architecture of this bank building in Minneapolis. And I'm
Oh
going,
yeah. Yeah.
what is going on with the bank buildings in the Midwest? Because this is some serious history and art, but Minnesota, I think, is kind of winning on this. What is going on with
You
that?
don't really think of architecture from that area. I think as we think of places to go to see architecture, but Mason City's basically on the Minnesota border. It's pretty
Hmm.
close. And then you go up there, and you're right. Owatonna has an amazing bank building, and that should be on the list somewhere. Uh, and
It is
uh,
now.
and there's other things up there that architecturally, as you get in St. Paul. I mean, the Hotel St. Paul could easily be on this list too. And it was originally a Jefferson Highway tourist headquarters for Minnesota. So, but
Hmm.
anyway,
Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing to me about all of these, this history. So let's go to the World War One museum. And so let's talk museums because there's also the World War Two museum in New Orleans, which is massive, right? But you say the World War One museum in Kansas City, Missouri. Nancy, we're going to Kansas City
Mm.
in a
I
month.
love this
Ooh,
museum. It's one. I mean,
okay.
I love museums. Period.
Yeah.
This museum I would put in one of the top museums in the country.
Oh, wow.
It is, it was. It also is. It's not completely on the route, but it's very close to the route. through, and the area right across the street from it is the historic depot. So you're in this really cool area. That depot is unbelievable in Kansas City. But it was right after World War One. They made a World War One monument, and that beautiful. I mean, it's a big structure. It sticks way up, and you can see it from a long distance up on this hill. And so it's a more than just a museum; it's a memorial. And obviously, World War One and the Jefferson Highway just go hand in hand,
Mm-hmm.
because of the time period it was being built, and so that's part of it. But the museum is excellent. I mean, you learn so much about while you're there. You could spend easily half a day to a whole day in the museum, in my opinion, especially if there's something going on there. But it's a beautiful place. It's a kind of unique building inside, but they used a lot of different types of elements to make you really a part of understanding the war. They even have a virtual area. But it's really a great place, and I don't know. Everybody's got different places. There's other museums that I love on the route. I mean,
Miners Hall.
well, yeah, and
That's
Mhm.
Saint.
on the list
I
in
love the
Franklin,
St.
Kansas.
Joseph. There's a museum there, the Petit Museum. There's museum World War II museum. There's a lot of them along the route, but when I think of the place that I've been to this World War One museum at least four times, and
Oh, wow. You
I
do like
went.
it.
I like it, and I don't know. And I'm a kind of museum person. I helped develop a museum one time, so I love this
Hmm.
museum, and it's really something I would encourage people to stop and see in Kansas City.
Now, the Miners Hall, though, we got to give them a shout out. They were on the podcast and they've got the giant coming. It was,
Well, this is a different spectrum. It's a different museum. I mean,
yeah.
the World War One museum is a grand, big museum with well funded, and it's just a great
Hmm.
place. This little community in Franklin went through a devastating tornado that basically took out
Hmm.
almost all its history and heritage. And it had a lot of great history from the route, and there's just so much mining history in this area. But these people there, they just are just a ball of energy. They love their community. They worked hard to build this museum back, and they've been great supporters of us. And you're right there at a place where uh, a, a very amazing American event happened when the first women basically protest march happened, where they walked to try to get their husbands or miners who were on strike. And they called it the Amazon Army March, and it drew national attention at that
Hmm.
time. And some of these ladies were arrested, and
Look at this women's history on the route. Like
yeah,
seriously.
we have a whole different deal on that too. But you're right there. Then right across the street from the museum, you see this little sidewalk, and you're thinking that's kind of interesting. What is that? Well, the community at one time built what was considered the longest sidewalk because they wanted to get their kids a sidewalk
Hmm.
all the way to the school there, and you can you just see it there, and there's little sections of it maybe that aren't as good as other ones, but it's still there, and I just love it thinking of all the kids that traveled and walked on that route, and all the people that really worked to make that a possibility. And anyway, those folks there, and they're about ready to get something huge there when they bring their big uh, mining equipment that's going to be there. In 2025, I believe it will be
Hmm.
set there, and you will see it for miles when you go. It's one of the biggest mining equipments in the country preserved there, and so that's another reason to put it on the list because I knew what was coming in 2025. Because
Yeah, we got to get him back on a podcast. The other thing, speaking of big, Paul Bunyan and the Blue Ox. Come on,
Love
Nancy.
that.
I know you love that. That's Nancy's thing right there.
it's one of the most photographed roadside attractions in America, believe it or not, from what I've read. It is, and the thing about it is it's been there. since the early 1930s. At one time, I think the ox, at least, maybe even Paul Bunyan was portable. He was on rollers. You moved him, but over time
Wow.
they preserved him, and I've got some old
Did they
postcards
bring
of
him in
him
for
in
the
my.
winter? If he
I
was
don't
on
know.
rollers.
But yeah, I've got some postcards of him when he had wheels on him.
No
But
way.
he it's just a great place. And, most of the people know the legend of Paul Bunyan. Minnesota has several Paul Bunyan statues, but this to me is the most iconic. It's right by the lake, another town that I love on the route is Bemidji, Minnesota. Right on the lake, cool downtown. Has got just got that vibe. When you're there, you just love it. And you're right there. You right there is a visitor center, and where the Paul Bunyan is. They do different things. So even in Christmas, I think they light up that area,
Hmm.
and it's just that's a place you have to stop. Everybody's got to on the route has got to take a picture with Paul Bunyan there. I think.
Well, Bemidji, like you're talking about that being nearby. I saw in the Facebook group for the Jefferson Highway. I mean, they're ice fishing. Like seriously,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this
yeah,
is a
yeah.
yeah, but they really do that. Like it's not a
Oh
like
yeah,
no,
they have that, and they have a deal like a polar plunge where they cut out the
no.
ice and let people go into the water. It should be happening. Usually, it happens in January, I think. So may have already happened. I don't know. I have to
I
keep
think
track
normally
of
the
it from
first
year
of
to
the
year,
year
but
or something, but no, come on now. This ice fishing when you're on ice. You're in like no. But like good for them. That's what they want to do and good, but when you really see it, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, man. People are really out there in that snow and ice, but you know, um wow. Wow. To me, you're going to have to make like a really big vat of hot toddies for me to do that. But so we got Paul Bunyan, so we got roadside attractions. You've got a good list
Hmm.
here. We've talked about some of the destinations, but I also want to go to something else that was big, which is a new thing, Plattsburgh, Missouri. And this is where there's a brand new large mural, right? So this community is really rallied around what's going on for the Jefferson Highway.
yeah, they really have, and they have a few years ago they reached out to us, and we you know I first went through there probably I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, and there was nobody there had there was no really impact of the highway there. I just went through the town, and there's a really interesting thing of a statue there in the town of a man that was president for less than 24 hours, and he when and that is true. And there's a story about it. It got the got, they don't have any reason because it never really became official. But he really was the United States president technically for a short period of time.
Wow.
But I forgot his name. But there's a statue of him downtown. But anyway, it's just you see this old hotel building there, and it was on the Jefferson Highway. And if you drive really into the town, you'll see these beautiful houses there, and you can just see the community pride. But they really discovered us, and their mural that went up recently. We have several murals that are out, and we could have some of those are on my honorable mentions, and some of them I really love, but. This new mural is just beautiful,
Mm.
and they really embrace us. So, and they were named Community of the Year this year by the Jefferson Highway Association.
Oh, that's awesome. So now let's go to Tuggle Hill because I feel like we're going to do a tug of war, but this is like really, I like closing it off with this because
I
it's
had to throw
cool.
something obscure on this list. I thought there's several things that probably could have been that, but I love this because most people today drive by this place. It's near Bethany, Missouri, not too far from a town called Eagleville. And there was a section of the road there when they were developing the highway that they were having this hill became an issue. And the owner of it, I believe, was a Mr. Tuggle. And I think there was some issues with him, and he didn't want this going through his property anyway. And but a lot of the early travelers going through this route had all kind of difficulties getting over this section of the route. They would get trapped. They would get their car stuck or couldn't make it up or whatever. But in the early Jefferson Highway newspapers, you see the town stories about how the town people and the farmers and everyone in this area came together to build, basically reroute this. And it just, to me, it's a story of how this is such a community route, that these people had so much passion for building Jefferson Highway through their area that they came out from everywhere in that area to. There's a list of all in the Jefferson Highway Declaration of all the people that helped on it. It's like
Mm.
100 people on this list. I'm sure they're forgotten to history, but you can go there today, and you have to know exactly. It's really easy to pass, but you go right around this corner and know exactly where to stop. You can get on the side of the road, and you can see the highway. It's not where the highway is now, but you can see it going up this hill, and you can walk up the hill, and you can step where the highway was. And when I was there last, it was just a place to kind of reflect on the history of the highway and all the people that worked on it. And it's just one of those personal stories that I just really enjoyed on the route. And it's forgotten to most people in the area or whatever, but it's one of the stories of the highway.
It's a community, you know,
Mhm.
and I think that's what we've seen, just Nancy and I, when we started the podcast with you and doing this and hearing everyone's story, students going and getting signage and, making sure their school is, connected, um, all kinds of stories of how a community has embraced it throughout the years. I
Yeah.
think it's an important time. Like our country is a little divided. I'm not getting political at all, but it is a little wonky on
Mhm.
things. And I think when you look at something like this highway that is international, the sense of everyone working together as this corridor is what really gets me excited, is about communities working together. Whereas as tourism flourishes, you've got to make sure there's things for the tourism to come together. And there's all these amazing things to discover. And when you start getting the Jefferson Highway program, and sometimes some of these communities are farm communities with these amazing things, but sometimes people forget what's in their backyard. So it's
Mhm.
getting everybody excited and then excited about what's next door to them and beyond. And of course, for international travelers, the Americana side is massive. You're in the heartland of America, truly the heartland. And,
Well, it's amazing to
it's
me
huge.
when I tell this to everybody when I talk is every community I've been to on the route has got something unique to it. It may be simple, but I've never found a community on the route that I have can find something just amazing that this one. Either somebody lived there, or some event happened there, or
Belle Star's grave, Nancy.
somebody
You
was
got to do
buried
that.
there, or
Mhm.
something was invented there. Like the Faribault, Minnesota, where the tilt-a-whirl was built, or it was just so many little oddball things along the route. The world's longest beard we've been across. I mean, just whatever it is. I mean, there's just so many little things like that. and each one of them is part of the heritage and history if you find it, and that's what we work to build as we go forward and make this more of a tourism route is to share those stories with you and have communities embrace things like this as people
Mm.
love seeing things like this. I mean, they
And
love.
Dr. John. I'm just saying Dr. John is part of it because in New Orleans, I don't know why I just had to bring him up. I'm just saying it's
Well,
almost Mardi Gras season. Come on, man. Fats Domino's from the
Well,
area
I
too.
just took my
Come on.
first visit to the Bob Dylan Center in Tulsa,
Did
and
you did you like it?
really really enjoyed it.
Ah,
And
in Tulsa.
Bob Dylan was from Minnesota, and he he went to the University of Minnesota for a while, right on the Jefferson Highway. So you
And
know,
so Tulsa's not far off the route. And that's the
no,
other
it's
thing.
not.
It's like we look 3 hours around and Bob Dylan. Now you got JJ Cale in your backyard too. If you're going to talk about the Bob Dylan Center,
We
then
also have
you're in JJ Cale
yeah, we have
country.
the church studio where Leon Russell's. It's a museum that you can go to also.
No.
Yeah,
What? I did not know that.
yeah, it's
Are
a
you
great
kidding
place.
me?
It's a great place.
Don't stop. Dude,
Yeah,
Leon Russell? Mm,
yeah.
okay, look, that's a whole other podcast. That's if we talk music, Roger's a big music fan like Nancy and I.
Yeah, yeah.
And the music on the highway is
you
insane.
you
It's
It
will
is
always
insane.
insane.
It
find
really is
you're
insane.
you're going to
Uh,
find a reason to go back and back and back again and back again. That's what we find. Like, you can't just go to a place one time and say you've seen it all. Doesn't
no.
Mm-mm.
happen that way.
A new restaurant came in and like sliced bread was invented in Missouri just off the Jefferson Highway Trail. So like, you could go to that town where they created sliced bread and this bakery. They just tried to do it as something nice. And like, okay, so you went to the town, then the bakery opens up and then, oh wait, I want to go visit the place that created sliced bread. And that's even part of our lingo, our sayings in life. It's like, just like sliced bread. Well,
Hmm.
a community in the Jefferson Highway created sliced bread. Come on. That's funny. Like you want to keep
Well,
going back.
my hometown invented the Girl Scout cookie. So it's just,
No way. Are you kidding me?
yeah. First Girl Scout cookie ever, troop to ever make Girl Scout cookies was in Muskogee, Oklahoma in 1917. And we have a
No way.
statue. We have a statue here for that.
I did not
Oh,
know that. And I feel so bad because
see,
they're going around right now. And they came knocking on the door while we were in the middle of the podcast. And I had to say, I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of the podcast. I did not
Yeah.
understand
I
what we
have,
were doing. And
oh, no.
so I'm in Girl Scout hell right now. I'm in
we
the,
have
You,
a statue here, and I helped work on an exhibit in the Three Rivers Museum here for the Girl Scouts cookie. And it's it's an interesting story. The lady that managed the troop and did this, she was killed in the Spanish flu epidemic in 1918.
what?
Yeah. So, but great.
Wow.
But the first cookies ever made were made in the cafeteria by the students here for the Girl Scouts, and the Girl Scout Association of America recognizes that nationally as the birthplace of the cookie.
oh
Just
Oh
all
my
kind of
gosh.
crazy things, that's
this
what it's
is
like.
Yeah.
crazy,
You
crazy.
never
But
know
Okay.
what you're going to find,
And
but you got to
apparently
go
you
out
will
and look.
not get cheese curds in Winnipeg. It's not, no, it was
Yeah.
poutine. It was poutine. No poutine in Winnipeg,
well,
but you could get it. I know you can. But, I mean, when you think about it, beignets, come on, a
Mm.
good beignet,
mm,
that's good coffee. I could go for that right now. I mean, you look at the highway. Minnesota is known for ice cream, you know, but the Girl Scout cookie, I had no idea. Yeah. Okay, well, we've got more stories to go down the rabbit hole on, Roger. Thank you for your big list that we didn't get to do one little portion we did. So,
yep. There's a
everyone,
lot more.
this is why this travel guide, the Jefferson Highway travel guide is going to have to be, frequent because there's
Yeah.
no way we can tackle the highway in one
You can't
guide.
cover it all in one.
You
That
can't.
would take years.
It's massive. And Nancy basically has created the Britannica of the highway. And then
Yeah.
she looks at me like, Lisa, like this would be like 1,000 pages if you
Yeah.
really. So we're
Easy.
working hard. So please, if you go to jeffersonhighwaytravelguide.com, my email address is there. The link to the Jefferson Highway Association is there, jeffersonhighway.org. Please feel free to touch base and say, hey, Jefferson Highway, what you want to see in it. Communities want to be involved. Please let us know if you're a local in the community, if you're a traveler, what you think we should be including. Please, whatever we can do, we want to work with everyone to make this, just awesome for everyone so that we can have it as a connector of all the communities and a connector for travelers to get to those two communities and have the best experiences. And listen, road trips aren't great on your own. Like, you can have your own time, but road trips
Well,
should be
you
shared.
say that kind of reminds me of one thing I want to make sure we talk about before we leave is by the time this podcast breaks, we'll be very close to registration starting for our 2025 conference in McAlester, Oklahoma. And you're right, people road tripping together. That's what's going to be great because we're going to do another caravan and we're going to all meet again, all our friends of the highway, and we're going to meet in McAlester, Oklahoma for a great conference June 4th through the 7th in
Cool.
this year.
And we're
Very
going to be
cool.
there. We're
And
all
you're
going
going
to
to be there. We're excited
I
about that.
know.
Yay.
We
We're
behaved.
finally going to get one to
I made
go
sure
on.
it was on. It's on the books. We will be there, and but we will not be wearing high heel shoes. That's all I have to say. Because every time you hear the word conference, you think you have to wear high heel shoes. I don't think we have to.
No, yeah, not a conference.
Not for this. No.
No.
This is about travel, and I'm excited to hear about the sociability run, the caravan, because I think I didn't
love
even
it.
know that's what they were called, and you guys are starting this. I was like, oh, I really wanted to be in the last, since we've known them, Mason City and Alexandria, which we love that area too. But honestly, we can't wait because you have some crazy history in your backyard, Roger. Crazy, think about this. I
Well,
mean,
every area has different history, different culture, and we're going to definitely be in the heart of different culture here. And I think it will be a lot of the native history of this area will definitely be brought out during the conference.
Oh, it's huge history. Well, thank you so much, Roger. Everybody, thank you for tuning in here. We're here every fourth Thursday on bigblendradio.com. You can keep up with the podcast. Just go to jeffersonhighway.org. They have the link there, and also jeffersonhighwaytravelguide.com. You've got the links there as well. Thank you so much. See you on the highway. See you at the conference. Thank you for joining us here on the Big Blend Radio Jefferson Highway Show. The show airs every fourth Thursday, and we encourage you to go to jeffersonhighway.org to learn more about the Jefferson Highway Association or even become a member. You can also dig into the history of the highway and share travel notes with friends at the Jefferson Highway Association Facebook group. Follow our shows at bigblendradio.com. Happy travels!